For a while, there was no voice. Ah, so clever. Yeah, okay. You know what's today's topic, right? You don't know. You just hear. It's a good day for fellowship. Yeah, that. But do you know what it means? Today, no camera, we can talk. And play. Okay. Do you know what that means? It's the beginning of Buddhist traditions. How many of you are familiar with the historical milestones, the milestones of Buddhist history? Oh, you're not. Then were you here? A vague idea, okay. You're a teacher, doesn't count. For the rest of you, how familiar are you with Buddhist history? Not, okay, scale of 1 to 10. 10, you can write a paper on it. 1, you know who's the Buddha? And you know the Dhamma? And you know what it means by Sangha, but that's about it. Okay? That's 10 and 1. Where are you? You are what? 1. Okay. Who is 10? No need to be shy lah. No lah, not me lah. I also not 10. 9? Any 9s? 8s? Oh, good. 7? 6? You're so modest. I know Buddhism, we talk about humility and all, but this is a bit too modest. 5. 4. Well done. 3. 2. 1. You are in the wrong class. I knew it. The more part of you in the wrong class. You know, I wasn't expecting a crowd. I mean, who comes for Buddhist tradition? People come for Dhamma, right? You come here for Dhamma. Who come for Buddhist tradition, seriously? As if I don't know the 3 tradition. Actually, not many of us do. For those of you who have taken courses, the very first time you hear about this must be quite eye-opener for you, huh? Yeah, okay. Now I got to make this work. Now, how many of you have read my book? I don't want to do the 10, 9, 8 thing. If you have read my book, you would know that at some point, Buddha passed away, right? He went into a state called, we describe it, we call it parinibbana. Okay? And in that book, I went a little bit beyond parinibbana, meaning post his passing away. And I spoke a little about the first council. So today the story will start from the first council. Okay? Buddha passing away was an extremely important, in fact, the most important milestone that started this whole chain. Because for the longest time, the only individual who could define Dhamma, explain Dhamma, it's considered the authority on Dhamma, was the Buddha. And now he's gone. He's not going to be around to explain the Dhamma. Then how? You think about it. I want you to cast your mind back into that point. Cast your mind back. I know some of us are not quite into imagining. Well, we must see things as they are. Cannot imagine. Today, just try. Okay? Cast your mind back to the point when the Buddha passed away. And you are, present tense, you are a practitioner. You're looking at the loss of your teacher, the one individual who could explain and the world will accept his explanation. What is Dhamma? He's gone. How would you feel if you were his student then? You were part of that 500, it is said, that there were 500 of them with him when he passed away. We must not take these figures literally. Okay? Can you just imagine 500 people crammed into the forest? A bit too many, huh? The idea here is there were many, many disciples with him. And those were his closest disciples. The bulk of them would have been his closest disciples. The Sakyans, his cousins, his attendant, the leading disciples of the day, the ones who learned the Dhamma from him. They learned it from him. They heard the Dhamma from him. They were not fly-by-night practitioners. They were people who understood Dhamma. And they were people who were with him because they felt that debt of gratitude to him and to Dhamma. Imagine the kind of passion that they had. You must put your mind back then. Not you, 2,500 years later, but you, his disciple, who had benefited from his teaching, directly benefited from Dhamma. That gratitude, the passion, the love, etc. Now he's gone. And you, in your mind, may be the only bunch of people who truly understood Dhamma. Because you realized it. It was said that the ones who were with him, he himself said, every one of you here, you will not be lost. You will know how to go from here. By saying that, from those words, it meant that they all were already Aryas. Some were not Arahants, but they were all Aryas. What does it mean by Aryas? It means these people would understand. They knew the path, they knew the practice, they knew how to get there. They may not have seen Nibbana, but they knew how to get there. Today you have Google, you have GPS. You may not have seen a place, but with that, you know how to get there. You get lost a bit because you're very bad at following instruction. But you can get there. You get what I'm saying? They read his map correctly. They knew how to read that map. Okay? So, passionate people who knew what they were doing, who knew what the practice was about, who knew the answers. And they are looking at the end of an era. Now, the responsibilities, the burden was on them. They had to preserve Dhamma. Okay? This was how it all started. It started with a group of individuals, large group of individuals, all practitioners, all realized, all knew what they were doing, deciding to take matters into their own hand and said, it's now our responsibility to preserve the Dhamma, keep it alive for future generations. And so, within months, correct. Within months of his parinibbana, his closest disciples gathered for what we call today we call it the First Buddhist Council. When they started it, they probably didn't advertise themselves as we are the First Buddhist Council. They obviously didn't advertise like that. But what they did was, they said, we got to get together and consolidate the Dhamma. What's the source of this material? It's from the Chulawagga Pali. That's one of the Vinaya texts in the Theravadian tradition, okay? And what that text said was, large group of them. Again, the number came out 500. Don't take it literally, okay? A large group of them, they were his closest. Many of them, in fact, all of them learned from him directly. They gathered, they met, and they said, we will compile his teaching. We'll gather all the materials as much as we can. With so many of us, I'm sure we can do a darn good job, okay? Why did I put the word 3 months? Because in the Chulawaka Partly, it said they gathered within 3 months. Okay? We don't know if it's 3 months. It may well be 6 months. I mean, who's counting, right? But what it meant is it was a very, very short time after he passed away. Now you think, this is India, this is not Singapore. India's a big land. And this is 2,500 years ago. They don't have internet. Cannot one button everybody to. Please meet at Buddhist Fellowship for a gathering at 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning, 22nd. What's the month? November. Don't have. Someone has to run. Excuse me, can you come for meeting? And then run back. The monk. A lot of these in and out, okay? It probably not 3 months, okay? But what, according to Chulawaka Bali, this is a sidetrack, this is not part of the thing, but it's just a sidetrack. Why this fixation about a meeting? Apparently, one of the senior monks of the day, one of the most senior monks of the day, by the name Mahakassapa, overheard someone saying that, hey, good man, teacher gone already. No one to tell us what to do. Cannot do this, cannot do that, must behave like this, must behave like that. The guy wanted to do a bit of discount on the discipline. Mahakassapa, who is known as a Dutanga monk, was Dutanga, one of the strictest. He's very strict on the Vinaya. Apparently he got very disturbed by that comment, and he thought it was necessary to convene a meeting and make sure everybody toed the line. We don't know. We don't know how far that story. I mean, there must be some truth to it. People must be talking. Some monks must be saying, let's be a bit liberal with the rules. No one to tell us it's wrong. We can be a bit liberal with the rules. That might be happening. So for the more senior monks who knew about the practice, they were very concerned. So the main concern was Vinaya, monk discipline. Okay? Main concern of the day must have been Vinaya. Dhamma was important, meaning consolidate his teaching. What's the difference? Dhamma was his teaching, is his teaching, the discourses he gave on how to realize Nibbana. That's Dhamma. Vinaya, the disciplinary rules the monks must observe. Their belief, and it is correct, the understanding is you must observe the rules in order to walk this path successfully. That's where the two come together. In other words, watch your behavior, watch your conduct. Your conduct is skewed, your practice is off, your Dhamma understanding cannot be there. If your Dhamma understanding is there, it wouldn't be so off. Your conduct will be correct. So this is to try and get people on the right path, okay? So, according to Chulawaka Pali, the motivation for that meeting was the fear that people would break away and start to sing it a bit in their practice. The result of that meeting, that result, first and foremost, that session lasted for a while, okay? 6 months? I think 6 months. It lasted for a while. We, again, don't take it literally. Many months. The period that they took to compile his teaching was longer than the period they took to convene the meeting. That's what it means. So roughly double, okay? They took a long time to put together his teaching, but it doesn't end there. After they consolidated everything, they must memorize it. So what if you put together everything and nobody remembers? Not very useful, right? So they have to figure out a way to make sure that after we've gathered everything, there is a way in which people can remember. That is why, if you look at the sutta, some of you haven't, but never mind, trust me. If you look at the sutta, you will notice there's a lot of repetition. Sutta's not thesaurus. Let's have a more creative way of saying the same thing. People got to memorize that, they will forget. Okay? So they have to make it easy for people to remember, hence the repetition. So next time when you read it, you see the repetition, you don't say, "Yo, why always like that?" Just say, "Oh, well done, well done." Okay? Because they don't write this down. They certainly don't write these things down. They just, everything is word of mouth and memory work. Okay? So they did that. They took several months, consolidated, had the Dhamma Vinaya. What is the significance of this? Is the very first time in the history of Buddhism that you have on record a set of teaching that all these top monks can agree on. It is therefore the first, as I put there, the first official interpretation of the teaching. This is the first interpretation. This is how they say, we remember Buddha's teaching, it was like this. This is that first set. We know that there was some disagreement because captured in the Chulapwaga Pali, that's the source of the story, captured in there were two monks who said, be that as it may, that you remember Buddha taught like this. We have our own recollection and we're going to continue with that. Can you imagine, this is the official record of that meeting, and they captured it, that there were some monks who disagree. What does that tell you? Oh, you all look to me for answer. What does it tell you? It tells you there were people who disagree. And there is not just two names. There were two names that was put out. Must be more than that, but these are the two prominent ones. These are not, by the way, the two names. They are not just Ahmad Ali like that, no? It's not just a name. It's people with credentials. People with credentials. They are prominent teachers. That is why it goes in, you see, into the record. Therefore, right from the earliest of time, monks had disagreement. That's what it means. This is just months after he passed away, you know. But by the time they finished, maybe 1 year or so. What does that mean? It means it happened last year only. And already there were some differences. Differences on the interpretation. Not differences on what he said per se, because if you look at the sutta, it is not just what Buddha said. It's somebody's understanding of what he said. File notes, record, is understanding of what, people's understanding of what you said. Then they will record like that, ma. You're not there to say, excuse me, this is wrong. I didn't say it like that. I meant this. Could you change the words? He wasn't there to do that correction. Then you say, how can we believe this guy? Hello, they are his most senior disciples. Ananda was there, Mahakassapa was there, Anuruddha was there. These are all his closest disciples. You know better. We have to take their word for it, because they are the ones closest to him, and they are the arahants. They say, why these teachers don't agree? Don't know. Human beings have different views. You, in your own life, know many people. You can say something to 5 fellas, they go out with 5 understanding. That's why you have this number, you see, huge number coming together to compile it. Minimize the mistake. So this is as good as it gets, okay? We are very lucky that what they did survived. We are very lucky. Because had it not been for this effort, we wouldn't have the Dhamma. You would have piecemeal hearsay, nothing else. And it survived this long. Okay, this is the first milestone, and it's important. I'm taking so long. 100 years later. You see, we skip so many years. 100 years later, this is another story, but because I took so long, this will be a short story. What happened was, according to the text, again it's Chulawagapali, according to the text, cut a very long story short, a monk went to stay, he's a visiting monk, he stayed at a place where the Wajans, they are a group of monks, okay? Wajan. He went to stay there, he observed that their practices were off. Amongst the things they did was to accept money. This monk by the name Yasa, voila, Yasa, was very disturbed. That was obviously a wrong practice in his eyes. And he was, in the Chulawagapali, he was said to be an Arahant. He was very disturbed. To him, it was a clear example that the practice have gone off. Buddha was talking about no money, don't accept anything, no nothing. These guys were happily taking money. So he then gathered, he spoke out against that. They ostracized him. He had to run away. Just imagine, the poor guy had to run away. He went to convene, he get other monks to come into the picture to try and stop this practice. Then there was a ding-dong. Seriously, you read the text, there was a ding-dong. Both sides were trying to lobby for support. This is how they sort things out. You know, they argue, they come together, they debate, they get some resolution. So what did they do? They convene a second council. Okay? Monks coming together. This is captured in the text. More disagreement. People, it's not just one problem, one Vinaya practice going wrong. There were 10. And for some reasons, the monks couldn't agree on the transgressions. We don't go into the details. Just understand that the fight was over disciplinary, monk discipline, the practice, not over Dhamma. The fight now is not over Dhamma. It's over what is the Vinaya, what is correct, what is wrong practice, okay? And the result of that, the conservatives won. You know them, or we know them by this name. Oh, you don't see my pointing. You know them by this name, okay? Shavira. They won. What does this word means? Firm. Firm, okay? Unfortunately, they were the minority. This particular meeting, it was said 700 monks attended. You will say, wow, 700 jinzui, yeah, but they offered 10,000. The opponents, the other camp, the one who wanted some liberalization of the rules, there were 10,000 of them captured in the Theravadian record. Okay? Meaning the minority group's record says that side got 10,000. If you are charitable, you say, wow, so many. If not charitable, you say, hey, maybe more than 10,000. Double the number, maybe. Don't know. All we know is there was a minority that said you cannot change the rules. And the huge number that said we must change the rules. They were unhappy, they broke away, they start a new movement. It's just a group, a whole bunch of people who are called Mahasangika. If you're really interested in Buddhist history, learn this name, Mahasangika. What does it mean? Maha means big, large. Sangika is a group. They had this imaginative title called, creative title called the Big Group. Okay? But the point that I want to make, 2 points to bear in mind. One, it was initially a fight over Vinaya that led to a schism. What's a schism? Entire groups breaking away and saying we don't belong together anymore. Okay? They broke away, they say we are not together anymore. They split. And this split was a very major split. They never reconciled. And you can look at it as a small group that tried to hold on to the old ways, a new group, huge one, that said we are going to try something different. And this is just 100 years post Parinibbana. Okay? 130 years, so you take about 3-4 generations of monks. Think of it in terms of generations. 3-4 generations of monks. Someone came along from the Mahasangika camp, the other camp, okay? His name is Mahadeva. Mahadeva is deity, okay? Mahadeva levied 5 charges against the Arahant. We don't go into the details, but basically, the bottom line is to say that the Arahant, 2 points, just 2 points to remember. Arahants, not the end of the game. For the longest time until this point, the ultimate goal of the practice was to realize Nibbana, to become an Arahant. But with this, what it's saying is, Arahant is not the end of the game. The ultimate realization is not about Nibbana. This is where it started. Or at least it's not about, wrong. It is not that it's not about Nibbana, it's not about being an Arahant. Because here, one of the things they said was, Arahant can regress, can decline, can backslide. This is completely against early teaching. Okay? Now, politics led to the Sangha becoming like this. This is just 130 years after Parinibbana. The split between the Mahasangika and the Sthavira intensify. So now what you have is this idea. It is seeding an idea, a very radical idea. But you seed the idea that there must be a different path, not just one. You understand that? Because up until this point, we may have our disagreements, but we still agree on the same goal, the same attainment. But with this development, we are saying different goals now. This attainment, not kilat enough. So what do we have? A doctrinal fight. The beginning of a doctrinal fight. Your teaching, the Dhamma, is beginning to, interpretation of Dhamma is beginning to split. Okay? 250 years later, the reign of Asoka. This is significant, not so much, you see, it doesn't mean that between 130 years to this period, 250 years, it doesn't mean that over this period, nothing was happening. Many things were happening, but it was not captured on record. Or at least it wasn't captured in the records of the Chula Wagapali, which is our source for what happened during this period. But there must be many things happening because by this age, the split was so bad, monks will not sit together. They basically don't recognize each other as monks, fellow monks. According to the source that we use, they will not sit together. They were fighting over doctrinal understanding. And if you read that text, you will read that things got so bad, there was a state intervention which caused things to become worse. The state, the government, the king tried to intervene and make things worse. Okay? And finally, there was another council convened. Every time they couldn't resolve something, they convened a council. So finally, another council convened. And this is a conservative council. For sure, it was a conservative one because that's captured in the record. And in this council, the most significant event in my mind, the most significant event was, you have it there, was they affirm a certain doctrinal understanding, which today you know as Theravada. Okay, they affirm a certain doctrinal understanding, and if you know Abhidhamma, you will know that one of the books in Abhidhamma was compiled during this time. One of the books, Katawatu. It's called Points of Controversy. And that particular book of Abhidhamma was to argue against every other person's argument. It was basically, I rebut you point by point on your wrong doctrinal understanding. So there was this thing going on. Now what does it tell you? It tells you that in that 250 years after Parinibbana, there were a lot. The Sangha community was split over Dhamma concepts. Okay? Over Dhamma concepts. Who was the Buddha? What was the Buddha? What did he teach? What is consciousness? What is Pugala, the individual? All kinds of ideas. And there was a decision to step up proselytizing activities, meaning go spread the Dhamma. Go spread Dhamma. So the different sects, the different groups were all very anxious to teach their teaching, their interpretation of Dhamma. Wait, did I go too fast? Sorry. Okay. You think you have problem with three traditions. Look at what's happening. Few centuries after Parinibbana, why do I say between 20 and 30 sects? According to the Theravadian record, there were only 18 schools. Okay? Then how did I come up with so many scholars? We're all very free, nothing to do. So we look at different texts, okay? These are the sources. Vasumitra, he was a Sarvastivadian monk. What is Sarvastivadian? It's a group, it's one sect that belongs to the Stravira group. Okay? Remember, I'm going to take you back. You go back, rewind. Remember there were two big umbrellas. One called Mahasangika, the other one called Stravira. Yes? Don't remember, must rewind. From these two big umbrellas, okay, just remember this. From these two big umbrellas, each one produce baby sects. Every one of them, baby sects. Okay? Mahasangika, I suspect because of sheer number. The more people, the more splits. So more of the splits came from that umbrella. But the Stravira also had their own splits. Today, what you embrace is Theravadian Buddhism. Theravada is one of the Stravira sects. Theravada doesn't equal Stravira. Stravira is an umbrella. Theravada is one of the sects. That's all. Okay? But you can at least claim to go back to a long, long time ago. It's all the way back to minimally 250 years old after Parinibbana. Okay? And one other sect that belongs to the Stravira umbrella, same like cousin, firstborn cousin, okay, is this Sarvastivadian. But they have disappeared because they spread to the wrong direction. They went Central Asia. The one that spread all the way down south to Sri Lanka, survive. It's actually where you landed up. You landed up in the wrong place, in the path of invading forces, finish. So this is what happened. Many of these sects disappeared as a result of the tumultuous history of India. So different forces started crushing them. Okay? Sarwastivadian, Mullah Sarwastivadian is a split of Sarwastivadian. And then I even bring in a Tibetan scholar. The point is, these were scholars, they were the scholars in their time counting their sources. They would have referred to different sources for material, much of which have been lost to us. We don't have them anymore. We don't know how they counted. But it's very fascinating to look at what they were doing. There were all these names of schools. I had the free time for a period looking at these books, and I went crazy. There's so many sects, but it's very fascinating, okay? Now, few hundred years after Parinibbana, 1st century BC, the first Mahayana Sutra appeared. It's believed to be the Prajnaparamita Sutra. This, the belief to be, is the belief of scholars, not me. Okay. I'm just taking this of what the scholars who were doing research on the rise of Mahayana Buddhism, what they were saying. Okay? Now, some interesting anecdote. Today, even till today, it's still a very rich area to go into research in, to research in. So for those of you who are thinking of pursuing your PhD, can consider this area. What is the origin of Mahayana Buddhism? Because until now, the scholars couldn't agree. They couldn't conclusively establish nor agree, okay? They debate, they argue, they write copious notes and all. What do they come up with? Some of them said that it probably came from South India. How do they know? They actually look at the sutras. They look at the sutras, and in the sutras, they try to pick out what were the things, the places mentioned. You see, how do you know whether something is new or old? For those of you who lived in Singapore, not live in Singapore, for those of you who are past a certain age, you will know that some housing estates were not around. Some places were not around when you were a kid. If you were writing a book, then you won't mention these places. If you write a book today, you will mention them. You understand? The same thing. There were some places that were not mentioned, but in the sutra, they were mentioned. Why were they mentioned? Because Dhamma has made its way there. These are the new places that pops up. And so in the early Mahayana texts, the places mentioned was Andhra Pradesh, further down. It was not mentioned in the original, the oldest texts. Because we know Buddhism spread. If you know the map of India, you all know the map of India or not? It's a triangle. It's a triangle. Inverted triangle, okay? See the triangle? Original Buddhism started here. You're facing, if you were to face the other way, it's on the northwest. East. Northeast, okay? The northeast. And any places mentioned below the northeast region, they are new. So this one, the earliest text, talk about South India, places in South India, okay? Some final points. In Mahayana Buddhism, there were actually two periods. Early Mahayana Buddhism, there were two schools. Hang on, let me just pull out my laser. Madhyamika school, Yogacara school. For those of you who talk about sunyata is actually from this school. The idea of sunyata, Madhyamika school. It was introduced by Nagarjuna, leading scholar and teacher of that school, Madhyamika school. Later, Mahayana Buddhism, they go into esoteric Buddhism. You have it there? I spell correctly, right? Sometimes spelling a bit off. Don't trust me. Okay? Two periods. In the earlier period, the emphasis was still on the practice. What is the distinguishing feature? It is to the new goal, to strive for bodhisattvahood, so that you are in a position to save, to be the salvation of another. That's the new idea. This is a later evolution, okay? So remember, 130 years after Parinibbana, you first attack the notion of the Arahant and say this cannot be the end of things. You have to provide something else. So over time, he didn't provide it, but it was over a long time before this idea surfaced, that it is not about personal salvation, it is about achieving another state, called the Bodhisattva state, and in that state, you become a source of salvation for another. And this is a desire the individual holds on to. The idea is not completely new. You may think that because it's a later evolution, it's a later invention. It's not. It actually has its roots in the idea that our Gautama Buddha, in his earlier lives, had wanted to help others, become a Buddha himself. And he achieved it. So this later idea took that inspiration from the earlier story of Buddha's earlier lives. So you will then notice that both traditions were always talking about Buddha's earlier lives. The Theravadian had their Jataka stories. Mahayana has even more stories. So the point here is, it is not out of the imagination of individual. It is not. It came from an earlier time, okay? But it became a doctrine, a full doctrine in its own right. It's no longer just a source of inspiration and aspiration. It becomes a doctrine. That's where it is different. Sorry, might as well just give you all. Some points as a conclusion, there's some more things at the bottom. Give it to you lah. Then you take picture first. Okay, some points to bear in mind. Over the years, it started off, if you recall, as a disagreement over disagreements. Sorry, it started off as disagreement over Vinaya practice. That was how it all began. But when you have differences and you start to differentiate yourself, over time, it became a fight over doctrine, understanding of Dhamma concepts. And as monks spend a lot of time arguing their case, If you are not realized, you have a lot of views, a lot of thoughts. We do too, right? When you're not realized, you don't realize that all these views are mind-made. And when we are not realized, we have all these ideas. Today, you can sit in a meeting with a bunch of Buddhists of different tradition, and you'll go away with a headache. Because everyone has a view. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. It's all about I, huh? And needless to say, over those years, many years, the monks spend a lot of time arguing about their understanding. As long as you're not realized, you have a lot of views. So it all started with Vinaya differences, and then it became very serious fights over doctrine. It led to some evolution. One of the evolutions of the time was serious scholastic development, meaning monks became scholars, and scholars have a lot to say, okay? And they will put up very serious arguments, proof that they were right. And where did they get their proof? From browsing through the records. They will look at all the records that the Buddha had taught, all the discourses. Using the material from the discourses, they put out a case. And that became what I call the appendix to Dhamma. Abhidhamma? Appendix to Dhamma. The work of scholars arguing the Dhamma, using proof from discourses. It's not original invention. Again, the original thing, it's not people coming out with their own way of explaining Dhamma. It's not. They go into the text, they go into the discourses, they pull out the evidence, but it's their own understanding of the evidence. That's where the problem lies. Okay? So there are all these things, which is why, if you look at Abhidhamma, it's very structured, very logical arguments. Then, how so many sects? Lucky you only got 3. 2, actually. 2 traditions. You have 2 traditions. 3 schools. How? And what I would say is, go for the original. And the original are the following, in yellow, so that they stand out. 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, the 3 characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, 5 aggregates, 6 sense bases, conditionality, idea of karma. These are all from the original text. And every sect, if those 20, 30 sects were still around, they will all have these things also. So these must be original, because everybody had them. Then you say, how do we know they're original? Just because everybody had them. Do you know these sects, they all went in different directions. They don't intend to just fight each other, you know. So many a times when they feel that they're losing ground, they go away. So they will relocate somewhere and set up new shops, new office, okay? And they proliferate all over India. So they have left the original point. And if they had left the original point carrying these points, then they must have taken it from somewhere, that source. So we know that these, we know that these was the original teaching. And in fact, today, you ask yourself, what is Dhamma? How do we know? If your understanding of these points is complete, you have no perplexity over these points, you got Dhamma? It's Dhamma. Then all the other tag-ons, if you like, you choose. But you choose knowing that they were tag-ons, posted, not original. Okay? It's okay to choose beyond just the original buffet spread. But you must at least have this. You don't flip it the other way around, and you go choose the tag-ons and forget the staples. Then what I will say, 自己攞嚟衰. You know what I mean? I want the Dhamma, but this one I don't want, so boring one. Or this number I don't want. I want that one. That one doesn't get you Dhamma. Dhamma's here. That one's tag on. Must know the difference. Okay? All right. So that's it for today. You can ask your question. A lot to digest. You know, originally, I was too lazy to do the slides. Then I thought about it, I better do the slides. Nobody can catch what you're saying after a while.
Any question, brother and sister? I'll pass the mic if you have any questions.
Thank you, Sister Sylvia, for the history of Buddhism, genesis of Buddhism. Okay, two questions if you don't mind. The first question is that this genesis of Buddhism is not only peculiar to Buddhism, it's peculiar to all religions, all types of groups. There will always be split. And one of the reasons which I think is the cause of this split is because of the Mara in each of us. Mara in earth, Mara in the group. And it will continue to split. So I'd like your comment on this. Yeah, that is the first one.
I must answer first lah. Then you give me the second one, right? You know, poor Mara gets blamed for everything. But I agree with you. It all depends on your definition of Mara. Okay? And you know there are 5 definitions of Mara, right? Okay, don't ask me, put me on the spot and say, oh, I want the 5. No need, I just tell you a few. One definition is, it's the evil one, the bad one, right? Meaning he's a deity and his purpose is to be a spoiler. Okay? The second definition of Mara is his death. So when you die, you mati. In Pali, Mara. Kena marat. Okay, my Pali teacher is just going to be very upset. 2, Mara is actually death. 3rd, incidentally, a death is Maranang. Okay? 3rd, Mara is also said to be the unwholesome negative thoughts that arise in the minds of individual. Okay? And you think about it. Part of the motivations for all these things breaking apart, pulling apart of the Dhamma, part of it is human's ego.
Which is Mara.
Which is Mara, exactly. So if you meant that, which I think you do, then you're right. But if you meant the evil one, then I don't know, I've got no comment. Okay. But yes, if it is just the negative instincts in man's mind, you're probably right, which is why it affects everyone. I always say, put together a group of people, you have easily 2 camps. And the more numbers there is, the more numbers of camp there will be, you know, the greater the number of camps. Yeah.
Thank you. The second question quite easy. The history of Buddhism started in India and spread through India, Asoka, but then finally it didn't take root in India. So what do you think is the reason for this unable to take root in the origin of the country where it spread?
That calls for another class. Hey, Chacha, you don't come out with that topic. Okay. First and foremost, let me tweak the observation a little. Buddhism took root in India. And it lasted for many centuries. It didn't start to disappear until maybe over 1,000. It was there for over 1,000 years, for sure. And it started losing ground only, I can't remember when. Many centuries AD lah. I can't remember exactly when. Because it didn't just disappear overnight. It took many centuries to eventually vanish. Okay, it took several centuries to vanish. And there were many, many forces. It's not one, just one reason causing it to decline until it became nothing. It's not just one force, it was many forces. So it's not one trigger, not just one trigger, many triggers. The very same factors that helped Dhamma to spread in the first place, the very same factors eventually were the factors that work against Dhamma, work against Buddhism. What were the reasons that helped it to spread? If you read the book, I sound like I'm advertising, but I'm not, okay? It's not for sale. If you read the book, you will know that my personal view, and it's the view of many scholars, is that you have the Buddha himself, the drive, the zeal of the early disciples, the very conducive political environment, open-mindedness of the people, etc. Okay, there are all these things. How did it die? Buddha's not there. Many Buddhas then. Because different schools, different Buddhas, different ideas. So you have a teaching that became split. Different sects, they were fighting each other. Not fighting, but they were having a lot of conflict and debates. They were actually the monks were coexisting harmoniously. Okay, don't give the idea that monks went out to the street and beat each other in clubs. They were coexisting somewhat harmoniously. But the strain is there. What does it mean for the lay people? Resources are split. Because you don't, unless you are the sort that says, I don't care which one is correct, I just donate to all. Just in case. Buy insurance. Okay. Or you may be the kind of disciple that says, one man, one wife, one religion. So you only go for one temple. The resources will be split. And I think the other critical reason is the political environment became very unconducive. The political environment. There were Hindu kings who were very anti-Buddhist and went after the monks and the practitioners and so on and so forth. And you know India, it's not an easy place to practice because they go through various periods of upheaval, there were droughts, there were famine. Then what happened? You think about it. You're a practitioner, you want to be a monk, you need the environment to be stable and able to afford to support you. When the environment becomes very unconducive, no money, no food, you are the first to go. Because how do you practice? Where you get your food from? And so on and so forth. That aside, there was also the doctrinal problems. Early days, you know what keeps Dhamma alive? Think. What do you think keeps Dhamma alive? Science. Yes, today. Yeah. Yes, I also agree with you. But then, for the longest time, what do you think will keep Dhamma alive? And will continue to keep Dhamma alive? Realization. If there is one individual who sees the Dhamma will be alive. Because only when there is realization, then the Dhamma is real. If there is no realization, no understanding, then what do you have? Another book. Bestseller. But that's it. But to have that realization, you must have the practice, and you must have the wisdom. You must have all the 5 things. There has to be the practitioners, there have to be the correct understanding, and there must be the motivation to chong in the correct direction. You chong the wrong direction, no use. You understand? So over time, when that starts to diminish because of all the differences and all, you will have confusion, people who can't quite defend the Dhamma, can't quite explain the doctrine. And then worse, the conventional faith of the day has always been the Vedic faith. Yes? From the time of the Buddha is a Vedic faith. Over the centuries, they morphed. They started embracing many parts of your Dhamma, including making Buddha the 9th incarnation of Vishnu. Buddha now adopted. So when you start to embrace, right, what differentiates you? Only if you understand the Dhamma, you can see the difference. You don't understand the Dhamma, you're very happy to be part of a bigger umbrella. And so you got your identity get diluted, your doctrine get confused, your people don't know what's going on. Die lor. But that number, the small number who continue to practice very hard somewhere else, kept it alive lor. And I agree with you, science will keep it alive. Because Dhamma is science. Dhamma is the science of the mind. You understand the mind, you understand Dhamma. And it uses the same scientific logic and methodology to understand the mind. Watch it as it is, document the phenomena as they are. Don't imagine, don't have all sorts of thought creation, just observe it, and then you can reproduce the results. It's very much science. And you proliferate it. You get the correct Dhamma, you understand it at your level, you understand, you begin to appreciate. How do you know you're on the right track? When you read the Dhamma and it gives you a lot of joy. It makes you pause, think, reflect, makes you a better person. Kalama Sutta makes you a better person, and you know it. That's how you know that you're on the right track. And then you put it into the internet. Proliferate. Okay?
All right, brothers and sisters, because of time limitation, I think we only have time for one last question. And this last question, sorry, brother, because this last question has been booked. So the privilege goes to our course coordinator, Brother Chai.
I'm sorry I took out your time, but later you can have private session with Sister Sylvia. Okay, it's actually not a question, but we have a special item. And may we invite Sister Sylvia to sit anywhere around here? No, you must see the screen. You must see the screen here.
You know, every time you've got special item.
Yeah, every time I got to trick her to come to give talks.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Give me 1 minute because I need to fish out the special item. Something like that.
You are singing.
Okay. As you're aware, right, this is Sister Sylvia's last lesson in BF before she got posted out to another country for her work. And she has been very instrumental in BF, imparting Dhamma knowledge, talks, courses, and sometimes counseling as well. Yeah. So today we'd like to do a special song dedication to her. And the title of this song is called Brahma on My Heart. And it's very suitable because you're aware that Brahma is one of the highest being in the form realm. And it's known to be very bright, just like how Sister Sylvia teaches us the Dhamma to dispel the darkness of ignorance. And Brahma is also known to be very pure. And this is how she is as well, trying to preserve the real essence of the Dhamma and impart that to us as well. And not only that, Brahma is also known to be the guardian. So she's like the guardian of all the practitioners here, telling us, hey, this is Dhamma, this is Dhamma, and tell us the right practice. And it's also very apt because most of us will agree that now we see her as the embodiment of the 4 Brahma Viharas. You know, when we see her, she's just smiling, ha, 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 ha. Yeah. A lot of metta. Yeah. And she also often have a lot of compassion for Buddhist fellowship members because every time I ask her for a schedule, she said, no problem, anything for Buddhist fellowship. Yeah. So there's a compassion to us as well. And when she knows that you're practicing well, she have a lot of appreciative joy. She said, good, well done. But on the other hand, if you don't practice well, she say, okay la, sudah la. Just try again, right? So today, Sister Biana, where are you? Yeah, thanks for this, putting this together. And we'd like to dedicate a song to her, so you all can sing along.
Turning my tears to comfort and to laughter. Do you remember the days being the flowers in the sky? You showed me wisdom and guide me over the way. You have sacrificed for me, leaving heartprints of your love. Brahma of my home, teacher and my savior. You're the hero of my life, gave me everything and more. Brahma of my joys, Brahma of my heart. I will remember your hopes. I will make your dreams come true. I will turn your fears into courage and compassion. I promise to take care of you, share with you all the love I have. Please do believe me, my love for you shines true. You have sacrificed for me, leaving heartprints of your love. Brahma of my home, teacher and my savior. You're the hero of my life, gave me everything and more. Brahma of my joys, Brahma of my heart. Brahma of my joys, Brahma of my heart.
So now we will call upon Brother Wilson to represent BF and members to give a token of appreciation to Sister Sylvia.
Do you remember when
Brothers and sisters, we are indeed very, very fortunate and very happy and rejoiceful to have a wonderful sister who always have BF in her heart for 13 years. That's a long time. And also for many more years. I know BF is very close to her, right? And like what Brother Chai Chai said, without hesitation, she will always come and share her knowledge, right? And the time with us. And some of the things just to share with you, she even dedicated a time with our teachers, enriching our teachers and preparing them for future courses. So there are many things that we have learned from her in these past years. And when you listen to her, the way she conducts her courses and the way she delivers, it inspires many of us. So thank you, Sister Sylvia. Today the crowd is very full. When you come back, we'll get a bigger room so that more of us can benefit from her teaching. Thank you very much.
Next time, I must give me early warning. I have to give a talk in the middle of nowhere. You know, I really never expect this. BF, why do I spend so much time here? It's really because I truly believe in the mission of BF. It's a community of lay people who want to understand the Dhamma, who seek the Dhamma. And this place doesn't discriminate against teachers. Just try its best to bring good people here to share. It's a gathering of intelligent, thinking Buddhists. The conditions are just right. In my mind, conditions are just right here for both practitioners, for people who are seeking Dhamma, for people who want to share Dhamma. Just go to one place where people gather, good people gather. And you're right, I'm close to, BF is very close to me because I just live near here. And that's the reason why I always come to the west, I don't want to go to the east. East very far. I do intend to make trips back regularly, and I do plan to come back to BF not 3 years from now, more regularly to share. And I do look forward to seeing all of you again and exchange ideas. Just one small final point. We went through a difficult time, this organization, this year. Many of you may have been present when things were tough. I am glad that we're back on our feet. The community is reunited again. And I hope that this place will continue to enjoy the benefit of good people offering their service, coming forward and wanting to share. I also hope that whoever you are, wherever you are, if you have some skill, some niche, you know you're good at that, bring it forward, offer it to this society, to this community. Bring it forward, share it, your gift. And whatever that gift may be, to you, it may be just something very simple, like I can staple very well. But hey, they need people to staple very well, you know. It may be something very simple. And it's no skin off your nose. But for this people, it matters a lot. So come forward, share. Do your small part for the Dhamma. And you don't have to be a Dhamma teacher to serve the Dhamma. You can serve in other ways. Okay? So all the best to you. Thank you very much.
So may I invite Sister Sylvia to stay put? Stay put. Okay. Okay, we shall now do an ovation for Sister Sylvia. No need to stand. We'll do the ovation in the Buddhist way. You all been to wedding dinner, right? Bante, I see you. Okay, you all have been to wedding dinner, right? In wedding dinner, they will say Yam Sing, right? So today we'll do the Buddhist way. We'll do 3 sadhus to Sister Sylvia, huh? One by one. Okay, first sadhu, we'd like to dedicate Sister Sylvia for being well, happy, long life, good health, so that she can continue to teach the Dhamma. 1, 2, 3. Sadhu! Okay, second sadhu, we'd like to dedicate Sister Sylvia to grow in the wisdom and compassion until the end of her life and to reach the Nibbana. 1, 2, 3. Sadhu! The third sadhu, okay? May she attain Arahant and Nibbana as soon as possible. Okay? That's her, I think that's her goal as well. So this is a louder sadhu, huh? 1, 2, 3. Sadhu! Thank you.
Okay, sure. No worries. So, brothers and sisters, while we are waiting a while, and also while Sister Sylvia is looking forward to return to BF, in the meantime, what you can do, you can practice and be part of this society. So, listen well, because I will announce the multiple venues that you can practice in BF.